Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to a special edition of Dark Powerrr. We don't usually have these sorts of things that happen, but every once in a while it does happen. And NWA and AEW, well, actually it should be flipped, AEW and NWA, with the emphasis on NWA, decided to put something out on a Friday. Now, AEW has in the past sometimes put things on Dark on Fridays. Usually it's when there's a pay-per-view on Saturday, and that's kind of the lead-in, so to speak, the old Saturday night shotgun or Saturday night heat that we get. But seeing it from the NWA, well, that's something that we definitely don't see that often. And we need to talk about some of the things that happened on this episode of NWA Powerrr, or Extra Powerrr, as they are calling it. But first, I got to remind you, hit that like button, comment, share, and subscribe if you have not already. So let's talk about Dark. Dark had a couple matches that stood out. It was pretty standard, straightforward edition of Dark. One of the matches that I liked was the Sydal brothers teaming up with Dante Martin to take on Aaron Fry, Darian Benson, and Barry Morales. That one was a nice little match that kind of just showcases what this trio's division can look like down the road. And I know that they were talking about how Dante Martin, with his brother out on the shelf with the injury and the surgery, has found some capable people to tag with and team with in the form of the Sydal brothers. But that would be a really cool trio. And even just somebody else teaming up with the Sydal brothers would be a nice trio for that trios division and those trios titles if and when they ever do arrive. And I also liked the main event of Orange Cassidy versus Jora Joel, just continuing that storyline of Jora Joel with the Hardy family. And yeah, there wasn't too much about Dark. I'm trying to figure out why they aired it, to be frankly honest with you. We could have just saved this for Tuesday for a regular episode of Dark or Elevation, if for whatever they taped it for. I mean, I know they put the Dark stuff up, so it's different. You can't necessarily reuse something that's taped for Dark for Elevation, but it's more a question of what was the reasoning behind. And what I think it was is that it's just a little bit of conditioning to say, hey, remember Friday, because next Friday Rampage debuts. So I think really that was the reason to put this episode of Dark out there, and no harm done. So really, what's the issue? All we suffered was more wrestling, and that's nothing to be that upset about. But there is something to be a little upset about when it comes to the NWA. So let's talk about this episode of Extra Powerrr. This episode's actually pretty good. It's very well paced. We start off with Nick Aldis taking on Odinson in a non-title match. We have Dr. Robert Stinson from the NWA podcast, who is on commentary with Gally and Tim Storm. And at first it was good, and then it turned a little sour. At first it was good to be able to provide a counterpoint to Gally, because Gally is clearly on the side of the faces. And usually when you have somebody who is slanted to the side of the heels, you need a counterpuncher on the face side. And the problem is that Tim Storm is either objective, right down the middle, or he errs on the side of being on the face side. And we know that Velvet Sky is a face, so she also errs on the side of the face side. So in a weird twist, you actually need somebody on commentary to be the voice for the heels. And that's where Robert Stinson comes in, to be able to call out Gally for being maybe a little too on the side of the faces, if that's even possible, to be too much on the side of the faces. But it works in the beginning, and then as the match goes on, it gets a little tiresome because Stinson doesn't know when to be quiet. When certain heel announcers, you will notice when they know they're in a corner, when they know that the face commentator or face announcer has them in a corner, they'll say something like, let's just focus on the match. Let's just call the in-ring action. Like, look at what we're missing. You're blathering on here and going on, and we're missing some great wrestling content in their action in the ring. Stinson didn't really know how to do that, and so he got a little caught up in trying to always prove his point, which takes away from what's happening in the ring. And what's happening in the ring is all this taking on Odinson, a little bit of cheating here and there from Strictly Business. What's that among friends? Well, it's not really friends, they're strictly business. And Pero is there to help his tag team partner Odinson. Everybody gets thrown out, and in the confusion, Aldis is able to put Odinson away with a nice tap out win with the Kingsland Cloverleaf. Good submission move. Good move on Aldis's part. And see, that's the other thing. Stinson, we can tell that Stinson's out of his element because when Aldis wins, he tries to rub it in Galli's face and says, "Still, you're NWA champion." And Galli rightly points out the title was not on the line. And then Stinson has to say, "I'm just saying it in general that he's still the champion." And it's like you're trying to cover for the fact that you forgot that this was a non-title match. Let's talk about our next match, but before we can talk about the next match, we have to point out that there was a little bit of a snafu on the NWA part because they said next up War Kings, and when we came back from the break, it was Tim Storm taking on Jordan Clearwater. So that was a little weird. But this match here was nice. There is still this uncertainty on the part of Jordan Clearwater. He knows what Black G's wants him to do. He knows that he wants him to cheat, wants him to we'll say use whatever means necessary. We'll shoot him some bail. But Clearwater is still on the fence about whether or not that is him. And he's in the ring with a consummate professional, a consummate face in the form of Tim Storm. And that really kind of comes to a head here. Is he going to cheat? Is he not going to cheat? And Tim is somebody who is really good in the ring, very underrated. And we don't see him a lot anymore. He's definitely behind commentary a lot more. So it's nice to have him have these moments in the ring, especially against somebody like Jordan Clearwater, and use Tim Storm to further the storyline of whether Clearwater is going to be heel or not. Is he going to succumb to the desires of money and the desires of power and fame, or is he going to do things the right way? We see that throughout this match with the handshakes, with the levels of respect that Tim Storm shows to Jordan Clearwater, and that Clearwater knows he should show back to Tim Storm. Good match, though. Tim Storm does pick up the win, as he should, as a former world champion. The heart-to-heart conversation, which is between May Valentine and Latimer and Camille, it was pretty well done. It was a pretty well done segment. They reinforce the Conspiracy Corrigan storyline. It's a little weird, though, because Strictly Business is claiming that there's a conspiracy by Corrigan against them, but Corrigan really hasn't done anything against them. Like, it's not really a situation where Corrigan has done something that deserves this kind of response from Strictly Business to call him Conspiracy Corrigan, but at the same time, it just feels as though that's what heels should do in this day and age. And I'm not trying to import any commentary towards the world and the world that we live in today. But heels, well, let's not say heels. People claiming that there are conspiracies against them is something that is prevalent these days. So them using that as part of the storyline kind of makes sense and kind of fits, especially when there's really not much of a conspiracy against Strictly Business. So we'll see what happens with that. But May did actually a pretty good job here in the interview, and let Latimer and Camille kind of ramble and roll and do what they needed to do for their characters. And that was a pretty well done segment. And it helps to highlight that versus what happens next, which is Austin Idol sitting down with Velvet Sky. Now, at first, I didn't realize why exactly they were sitting down together. I knew that they were talking about I knew that they were there to maybe talk about our main event, because Idol represents Tyrus and Velvet is Team Pope when it comes to the Champion Series. They are co-captains. But then I realized what they were talking about was more the Champion Series itself, and the fact that their two teams, Idol and gosh, I forget who. Okay, Idol and Camille are up against Pope and Velvet, a lot of names, in the finals of the Champion Series, which is next week. And the problem is that it's just a little too much of the Idol heel, and Velvet doesn't know exactly how to tone it down as well, the same way that Stinson didn't know how to tone it down. But the problem is that Stinson is new and Velvet's a professional and has been around in wrestling for some time. So I feel also they just didn't play well off of each other. For what we knew was supposed to happen with Idol trying to get underneath Velvet's skin, he does get underneath her skin, but then the response isn't there as much, and then Idol didn't know how to back off to let her properly express that, I think, because that's just his personality. That's the idol character of just being way over the top. So it didn't really work out as well as I think they wanted it to, or what they had envisioned for that segment. But what was interesting was that Velvet was pointing out that if her team wins, she is retired. So Pope would get the title shot unless she came out of retirement. Now, the tease there that Velvet Sky would come out of retirement? Is the tease that she's going to give Pope her title, the title shot that they win? But the real question is, why would Pope need the title shot? Because he already is the TV champion. And we know that if he gets his 7th title defense, he can vacate the TV title and go after the 10 pounds of gold. Well, that leads us to our main event. And this match, I got to say, might be one of the better matches that we've seen on NWA in some time. I know the JTG Fred Rosser match was really good. The JTG Adonis match was really good. This one also very good, and I gotta commend it. They pulled this out of me. Tyrus did all right. He did all right, and that's really the story of this match. The story is Pope was in over his head without realizing that he was in over his head. He asked for this match when he didn't need to. He could have just waited to see who the NWA would give him to be his 7th opponent. But on top of that, part of what works in the champion's favor is that TV title matches can only go for 6 minutes and 5 seconds. That's because that's when Power normally airs. Now it's interesting. Pope says he wanted no time limits on the match. All right. 2 reasons why it's interesting. 1, again, he's falling into the trap. And 2, it kind of makes sense. This isn't a Tuesday. It's 6:05 p.m., so maybe there shouldn't be a time limit. This is a Friday at, I think, 8 o'clock at night, or whenever this aired. So in a way, it kind of made sense for when the show was actually airing. So I gotta give them some credit. You know, maybe it wasn't intentional, but hey, coincidences can work out in everybody's favor. And the story of this match is Pope, like I said, being in over his head and realizing that he is in over his head, and knowing that despite the fact that he brings the fight to Tyrus right out of the gate, and it's still not enough. They both get, due to a ref bump, they both get visible pin counts over the other. That should be said. And that's a classic move in wrestling to protect someone. When you do a ref bump, the crowd in attendance and us watching at home can say, no, he did beat that person, or she did beat that person. They did get the 3 count. It's a classic move for a John Cena match. For the heel usually gets a 3 count over John, but then John's able to hulk up and get the win. Or sometimes it works in the opposite way, but then John still wins. And it was just a delay of the inevitable. But we got to say, the inevitable that we were hoping for, which is Pope versus Aldis, has been dashed. Because in the main event, Tyrus was able to pick up the win and is our new NWA TV champion. I got to say, match wasn't bad. Pope got a good match out of Tyrus, told a good story, worked around Tyrus's basically immobility, and kept it pushing. And it really now puts into perspective what Velvet was saying about what would happen, or what could happen, with the title shot should Pope and Velvet's team win the Champion Series. So we're going to have to pay attention. We're going to have to see what happens next week. And maybe that's really the point of putting this Extra Powerrr out, to really tease what's going to happen on the next episode of the Champion Series on Fight. Maybe it is a little bit of gamesmanship by Corgan to properly sell Empower and sell NWA 73. We'll have to see. But that'll be next week when I come back on Dark Powerrr. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I know this was a last-minute kind of thing. They did not tell me This was not cleared with my schedule. I'm here on a Saturday recording this for you guys to make sure that we have proper coverage. And that's what we try to do on all of our True Heels shows on our channel. So remember, guys, to hit that like button, comment, share, subscribe, show us the love that we try to show back. And we appreciate all the love that you guys show. I've been seeing some of the comments here and there in Dark Powerrr episodes, and I appreciate all of it. So, guys, until next time, remember, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and congratulations. I didn't think I'd be saying that. Congratulations to Tyrus, our new